Yo, welcome back everybody to a brand new video here on the second channel. Today we're going to be looking at some pretty crazy results. So recently, this past weekend, we had the regional Curitiba, which hopefully I said that correctly, but this regional is pretty historic because this regional had 5 Charizard EX decks in top 8. This is kind of crazy. I mean, we're all kind of on this train of Charizard. It's picking up steam, but a lot of people are saying still that Charizard is just not that good. It's got bad matchups, but it's starting to show some success in the meta. And now that there has been 5 builds of Charizard in top 8 of this regional, there's looking like there's a lot of potential for Charizard going forward. And I'm interested to see where Charizard ends up. This is kind of similar to a regional in Australia last year where there was the entire top 8 was Palkia V-Star. So this is something that's kind of similar to that. Really does remind me of when that happened. But this is a pretty crazy thing because, again, Charizard is kind of memed on as like considered, kind of a bad deck, but it's now starting to get more play. It's winning more tournaments. It's getting more popularity. And now that there's 5 in top 8, there's even a new version of Charizard in top 8 here that won the tournament. So I'm excited to take a look at all these lists. We, in fact, have the entire you have 40 decks to look at. Pretty sure this is the entirety of day 2 to look at, so we got a lot of decks to cover here. If y'all are new to the second channel, make sure to subscribe down below. Help me on the road to reaching 9K subs, and leave a like if you want to enjoy. Here we go with the list. So the winning list was won by William here with their Charizard deck, and this is the big new version of Charizard. So this is a Charizard EX deck using Arven. So this is a Pidgeot Charizard deck without Arceus V-Star, which is the big kind of difference here is it's not playing Arc, right? Arceus is a good card in Charizard. You can use Starbirth, get you 2 cards, very good card. The downside of Arceus is it's weaker to Path. It's also a bit of an easy liability, and well, it's also a good attacker. It's that liability. The nice thing with this build is that you do have the ability to play Penny. So this deck uses Entei and Lumineon V with Arven. So Arven gets you Rare Candy, Forest Seal Stone, which guarantees you a Charizard if you have a V in play, right? So you go Arven, or you can just Lumineon for the Charizard. You can literally go Lumineon for Arven for Forest Seal Stone Rare Candy and guarantee the Charizard. On top of that, you also get access to Arven as a way to get rid of Path of the Peak because you can play Arven with the 2 copies of Lost Vacuum to get rid of Path, which is also pretty cool. So really interesting concept. You can play Penny. Penny lets you pick up a basic Pokemon and put in your hand, so you can Penny, your Entei or Lumineon, and then just kind of make your board just Charizard, Pidgeot, and maybe like a Mew or Manaphy, which is pretty sick. So you can make your entire board a bunch of high HP Pokemon, and you still have the Pidgeot. Well, you don't play Arceus, you still kind of have that free card control with Pidgeot and the Forest Seal Stone, because Forest Seal Stone is technically a worse Starbirth, but a lot of the time you're Starbirthing for Rare Candy Pidgeot anyways, or Rare Candy Charizard, so you're technically still doing the same thing, if that makes any sense. So it's a cool concept. Also, the Lost City Edition is really cool, too. Really good against Guardy. And speaking of Guardy, this deck also plays Mawile. So Mawile's Tempting Trap attack traps your opponent's active Pokemon in the active and makes them not be able to retreat. So basically against Gardevoir, if they bench rating Greninja, you just boss the Greninja and then you just Mawile trap it and you win the game. Because Guardy right now doesn't really play a way to counter Mawile because nobody plays Mawile right now, so why would Guardy play Penny or Rope or anything? So the Mawile is really cool, because funny enough, Charizard doesn't have the best Guardy matchup. Guardy has Double Reversal and Zacian. Even stuff like Cresselia can be annoying in like the mid to late game, and even having Pidgeot in play against Gardevoir can be pretty annoying because it's not hard for Guardy to do 280 damage. So I still think Charizard struggles against Guardy, even though theoretically it should have a good matchup, but you would be surprised the power of being able to do a gajillion damage with Gardevoir's ability. So the Mawile is just extra insurance to make sure that Guardy can be beaten. I think it's a really good tech card within this deck. So really cool to see this new build of Charizard pop up. We're gonna call it Arvenzard because I think that's what we want to call it. Second place was Lost Tina, which is kind of funny. This is one of the things that holds Charizard back is Lost Tina. Lost Tina is a bad matchup for Charizard, but it ended up losing in finals to Charizard anyways. Now, I think there might have been some bad luck on the Tina's end, but Tina's just a very good anti-Charizard deck. They got Path, they got Sableye, they have the ability to insta-KO you. Even stuff like Greninja is a problem if you don't have Manaphy. So Lost Tina is a nightmare for Charizard. It's one of the things that makes Charizard like kind of memed on right now is like, why would I play Charizard when Lost Tina is popular? Well, who knows? It still won the tournament anyways. So yeah, Lost Tina is obviously still a good deck. I mean, it's just a pretty straightforward list. None of these decks, by the way, were 151 legal, obviously. Second place, or third place, sorry, top 4, we got another Charizard Entei Arven deck. This is the same list that got first place. So it's cool that a group of players all kind of built this new way to play Charizard nobody ever thought of, especially with the Mawile. Like, I'm sure people thought of Entei, like, I've seen that, but it's like, this is a different take on the deck. Like, for Arvin, like, there's not a lot of draw in the deck. There's only 2 Iona, 1 Research. It's cool to see a group of players, like, build this deck, and, like, a lot of them get top 8. Really cool to see. We got another Charizard in top 4. This time, it is the Arczard Pidgeot deck. This build does have some spice. It's playing Pokestop and Cross Switcher, which is actually really cool. Pokestop's also a very good card with Stage 2s, because you can guarantee a rare candy with it sometimes. Battle VIP is also really good with Pokestop. The only downside is sometimes you Pokestop away a supporter or Pokemon, but this list does play 1 Palpad. The only thing that's interesting is the 1 of Boss. I mean, I know you got Cross Switcher Palpad, but I mean, I guess because you have Pidgeot Mew, it's not hard to do Cross Switcher. I don't hate it, but yeah, pretty cool list. Got top 4. Is this the best way to play Arczard going forward? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, the Cross Switchers do make a difference. This probably would have a better time into Lost Tina, too, in my opinion. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's the best way to play Arczard. Who knows? There are other Arczards, though, that did do well in this tournament, so it's not the last one we'll look at. Another really interesting thing is somehow Arcdura got top 8. See, I love Arcdura. It's one of my favorite decks, right? I got top 32 at Hartford. I did pretty well at NAIC with the deck. I love this deck. I think this deck is terrible right now because it loses to Xianpao. It loses to Tina. It has a pretty bad Miraidon matchup, too. Yeah, it's not the greatest deck anymore, but you know what? If you hit the right matchups, I think this deck is good. The only other issue I have is I don't even know if this deck even beats Charizard, especially if you go second. But you know what? Credit where credit's due. It did end up getting a top 8 placement. This list is pretty, teched out. It's got a few interesting things. It's playing a 1-1 Lucario. And Lucario is pretty good against Arceus. I mean, if you're playing against Arczard, there you go. And it's good against Miraidon. So it's not the worst attacker in the deck. It's got the Path, which sometimes Judge Path can beat Arczard, so maybe that's how you beat it. I think I don't know, the one card I would like to see in this deck is maybe Karen's Conviction for the Dura. But the other thing with Dura, Lugia is really popular again, and that's really good for Dura. So personally, I wouldn't play Arcdura to a tournament just because of that abysmal Tina matchup. But you know what? It got top 8. Maybe Arcdura's going to come back in the meta. I hope it does. I love this deck. We'll have to see, though, where it goes. I mean, I guess you have the Alakazam Hawlucha belt combo for Tina. Maybe it is good. I don't know. It's cool to see, though. We do have another Arczard in top 8. This time, it is a different take on it. It's not playing Pokestop. It is playing a Path, which is definitely a card I've seen played. It's good in the mirror, obviously. It does play the Vacuum, 4 Iono, 4 Colress, 1 Jock. Jock's really unique. You're able to Jock for, Pidgeot Charizard. It's really broken. It's also playing a Radiant Greninja, which is kind of cool, too, for some extra draw. It's playing a Jet Energy, which is also pretty good with Mew. Yeah, I like this build. I mean, this could be the better way to play Arczard, right? This is a bit more of a straightforward build as opposed to the teched-out Pokestop cross-switcher build we looked at. We do have one Guardian top 8, though. Gardevoir still clinging on to dear life. This build, yeah, as you can see, there's literally no out to the Mawile, unless you collapse your Greninja or Manaphy or something, I guess. But, I mean, they're just immediately going to Mawile you anyways. But, pretty cool list. I mean, yeah, Guardy's pretty good right now. Double reversals. This is what I mean, like, double reversalization, like, how does Charizard beat that? You know what I mean? So, it's cool to see Guardy, though, in top 8, I guess, because it's still just a good deck. It's still, in my opinion, one of the best decks. And then finally, we got Pedro Pertusi here in top 8 with the Charizard Arvin list. Slightly different list. It is 3 Lost City as opposed to 2, and not playing the Mawile. And that's the big trade-off that Pedro played, is no Mawile. And it could have made a difference. The 3 I mean, that's the thing. Lost City and Mawile are both very good against Gardevoir. Both of them can, beat the matchup, right? So I guess maybe it just kind of worked out that way, right? But yeah, really cool to see this Charizard Arvin list. We'll have to see where it goes going forward. But yeah, there you go. 5 Charizard in top 8. Kind of crazy. Technically 3 builds because there was one with cross switchers and then one without like cross switchers. So I mean, because both Arceus Pidgeot Charizard builds play very differently. Outside of top 8, we got a couple Rapid Strikes, which Rapid Strike's another iffy matchup for Charizard. Even though they can't Rapid Flow the Charizard, they can pick off your Charmanders. If you don't get a turn 2 Charizard, it's really bad. But yeah, Rapid Strike just good. It is playing a Squawkabilly, not respecting Mew VMAX, which is probably the way to go. Especially now that Charizard's popular, maybe Mew is kind of just on the downswing. Maybe you don't have to respect it anymore, even with a Tomb. Though Tomb does give you a better Lugia matchup, kind of. Lugia's still tough, but it does give you a bit of it improves it maybe slightly. We do see another Guardy here in top 16. This one does play double collapse. Once again, as you can see, no penny. So if this plays against Mawile, just kind of loses. Unless you don't start with the Charizard, of course, or the thing, or you don't bench it. Because I guess that in that point, you might know what the heck's going on in the Charizard list. We see another list here playing Radiant Greninja over the Mawile once again. So another Arvinzard with no Mawile, but playing the Radiant Greninja, which, hey, that extra draw can go a long way. Right, when you got double Rod, Greninja is probably fine to play. We got Gustavo Wada here. Very, very good player playing Guardy too. But again, with no out to the Mawile lock, right? So we do have a Miraidon top 16. Miraidon's always going to get top 16. I actually think Miraidon's Charizard matchups also very 50-50. In theory, it seems bad, but if you have Raichu and Path, you're probably chilling. Like if you can even just win the game with Judge Path alone. You might not even need the Raichu, but you do have Raichu for the Charizard matchup. So yeah, Miraidon getting top 16 is not a surprise. It's just kind of the most like I could argue call it a bot deck, to be honest. You know what I mean? What else do we got here? Miraidon. We got Lugia in top 16. Yeah, Lugia is also really good. One of the things that makes Lugia sketchy, though, is it does have a very bad Charizard matchup if you do not play Cobalion. The matchup is very shaky if you don't have Cobalion. I think it's probably better into Lossard than Arc Pidgeotzard. But yeah, Lugia's Charizard matchup is very shaky without a Cobalion. If you have Cobalion, the matchup's a bit better, but even then, you could still like prize a single strike energy or something and get bodied. But Lugia's still very good. With Charizard being more popular, I think you have to start either playing Urshifu or Cobalion. Cobalion lets you KO a Charizard in one hit, a bit easier with Tyranitar. Urshifu lets you KO a Charizard, potentially even two Charizards, before it dies. You just have to hope that the Urshifu doesn't get hit first, which can happen. This build also plays Dunsparce for Lugia, which I think is fair. I consider playing Dunsparce in my Lugia deck for Pittsburgh, but I cut it. We got Mew in top 16. I mean, Mew's always just going to be good. It's just still good against a lot of decks. Even the Charizard matchup is beatable if you just Judge Path and win. It's still beatable. But yeah, obviously Mew is still just a great deck right now. Though I think we're going to start seeing Mew fall off a little bit. If Charizard really starts getting more popular, we might have to say bye-bye to Mew for a bit. Got another Arc Pidgeotzard deck here. I think it's the same build from the, same build of the one in top 8 with the Path and stuff. We got a Lost Box deck here. Another thing with Charizard is, can Charizard really beat Lost Box? I think the Penny build might have a better matchup over the Arceus build, because if you're able, basically, if you can set up your Charizards quick enough, you're probably fine, right? Because it's really hard for Lost Box to get over all those Charizards, especially if you play Lost City, because then you can start Lost Zoning their Sableye and their Dragonite and stuff. So I think if Charizard just sets up, and they don't, like, if Lost Box doesn't get Turn 2 Sableye and Charizard sets up, it probably beats Turbo Lost Box, but it can be close for sure, especially if Lost Box goes first and they get Turn 2 Sableye. We see another Rapid Strike deck in day 2 here. Pretty solid list. I mean, just playing the Drapion for the Mew matchup, but with one Mew so far, it's like, okay. We do see another Arcdura Umbreon. Okay, so apparently Arcdura is being revived again. I don't hate the deck, but I don't know if it's going to beat, the big decks. I think that unless Arcdura has some crazy way to beat Loftina, I wouldn't play it. It is cool to see it, and I'm always going to be a fan of seeing Arcdura or Arc Piles in general. So, I don't know. We'll see where Arcdura goes. Again, I don't know if it's got the, best matchup spread. I think it's got a fine Rapid Strike matchup if you don't get, KO'd before you build up a Duraludon or two. It's got a good Guardy matchup. It's got a great Mew matchup. I mean, it still has good matchups, but it's just, I feel like the bad matchups are just too risky. I also think that its Miraidon matchup is pretty abysmal. If Miraidon donks an Arceus, you're done for. They can still KO a Dura in one hit. It's a shaky matchup for sure. We got another Charizard here, the Arvinzard deck with the Mawile, same 60 that won the event. We see another Lugia deck, Single Strike Lugia. Again, no Cobalion, because, I mean, if I'm going into this, tournament, I'm probably not playing Cobalion, so it's like, and then all these Charizards stop popping up, I'm like, oh, no, that's not good. We got more Charizard here. Looks like we got another Arvinzard, same 60 from the looks of it. Well, actually, maybe not the same 60. It's playing 3 Arvin. It's playing a switch, because the first place list only played 1 Escape Rope. But, minor differences. We see another Arc Pile deck here in day 2. Arc Pika Slacking Umbreon. I don't hate it. Pikachu's honestly kind of good right now. It's really good against Lugia, really good against Xianpao, and it could even be good against Pidgeot, right? It gives you a way to one-shot a Pidgeot, so, and he has to go through 2 Charizards. I don't hate it. I like this build. I'm a fan of Arc Pika. This deck still feels like it probably loses to Tina, but I mean, we've only looked at one Tina deck, so. But that's the thing, like, maybe, like, for this tournament, Tina wasn't popular. I feel like, though, for Peoria, Tina's still going to be popular. I do like this deck, and I'm always happy to see Arc Piles. Even though I do think Flying Pikachu's pretty busted right now. Another Lost Tina. This one's playing the Temple of Sinnoh, obviously respecting that Lugia matchup. We got another Lugia deck below it, of course. Single Strike Lugia without the addition of the Cobalion. Got another Lost Zone deck here. Turbo Lost Box. No Kyogre or anything. Yeah, you're just a Turbo Lost Box list. We got another Charizard variant. This one, of course, is that Gallade build. Doing pretty well in online tourneys, but kind of not. I mean, it did get top 32, but it didn't, like, get top 8 or anything. But this Charizard Gallade build is still pretty strong. It still has its advantages over the other builds. You have a good draw engine. You have Gallade, which is really good. You have the ability to just not put, as many of evolutions in play, unless you're playing against Lost One, obviously. But I do like the Charizard Gallade build, and again, we're seeing all these Charizard builds just pop out. I mean, we've looked at, what, 3 so far? The Charizard Pidgeot, the Arvinsard, and now Galladezard, and as I expected, Lost Zone Charizard is right below it. This deck did do well at Barcelona, so this deck is now starting to pick up some popularity. I think this deck actually does have some advantages over the other Charizard builds, because you get to play Sableye and Cram, you get to use more very similar to the Gallade build, right? You get to have a one-prize backup engine without needing to put, like, Pidgeots and Arceuses in play. But you do lose out on Pidgeot and Arceus, which can be a trade-off. But you do also get the advantage of playing Greninja and Sableye, which can be very strong. So definitely a pretty good deck still. I don't know if this is the best way to play Charizard. I haven't played it yet, but I think this deck does have some potential. I mean, Sableye is just a really good card, right? So, I don't know, Lost Star doing well. I mean, bro, we're just seeing all kinds of Charizard decks. It's wild out here. We got another Lost Zone Charizard deck here in top 32. So, really cool to see the deck do that well. We got another Miraidon deck, of course, with the Flying Pikachu and the Path. Pretty, like, Mahone list, right, with the 4 Path, which I think might have to still be played. We see yet another Guardy deck here with, again, no pennies. So, it's like, if I'm playing Mawile, I'm chilling, because, like, all these Guardy lists didn't play Penny, but it is just, it's like it's toward Gardevoir, right? So more Miraidon action here with the Zeraora. No Flying Pikachu, but it is playing the Heavy Path, which is really good, right? Really good against stuff like Charizard. We got another Lost Zone deck. It is the Kyogre build, similar to Andrew's list, except it's not playing the Halucha, playing Double Roxanne. Yeah, Kyogre's pretty good. Kyogre actually doesn't have a great Charizard matchup because you can't Kyogre the Charizard. Like, if I'm playing against Kyogre, I'm not benching Pidgeot. I'm just putting Charizards in play, basically, because you can't use Kyogre against Charizard because of the terrestrial effect. 2 more Lugias to look at here. This one played Cobalion, but it's one of the lowest placing Lugia lists, which is unfortunate. But Lugia, Cobalion, it's either you play the Cobalion or you play the Urshifu. You cannot play and not respect Zard, but I think now we might have to start respecting Zard, bro. This one played a Snorlax. Snorlax isn't bad in Lugia either. It does improve improves a few matchups. It didn't play the Eviltal, though, which I feel like you still probably want to play the Eviltal just because you want to respect the matchup against Guardy still, right? But Snorlax is still a good, like, attacker regardless. We got 2 more Guardies here rounding out the day 2, and yeah, that's that, right? 2 Guardies. We'll take a quick look at them. This one is Spicy, Luxray. I've actually seen this on Twitter. I think Jake Gearhart played something similar with the Luxray Reversal Energy. Really good against Lugia. I mean, Guardy is okay against Lugia, especially if you have Temple, but Luxray gives you basically, like, a better matchup into Lugia. So I like the Luxray. I think it's a really cool addition. And against Pidgeot, it's pretty good, too. It helps against Pidgeot. I mean, you already can one-shot a Pidgeot, but, like, it makes it even easier. And then, of course, you got yet another Lugia single strike deck. No colorless Lugia. That's not. I mean, we'll wait. We'll wait and see. In yesterday's video, right, we just looked at the colorless Lugia domination online tourneys, and we'll have to see if that translates into the first major tournament where 151 is legal. But for now, single strike is still the best way to play it. Probably with a Cobalion. But there you have it. That is the entirety of the day 2 of the regional Curitiba. I really hope I did not butcher that. I apologize if I did, but it is really interesting to see these Charizard decks dominate, and it looks like Charizard is going to be a top-tier contender now. I mean, with all these builds doing well, it's looking pretty insane for Peoria and every other tournament coming up. So I'm excited to see where the meta goes. I mean, yeah, it took us long enough to get Charizard to be this played, but I guess it's looking like Charizard's now going to have to be respected. Or maybe it's going to flop. Who knows? We'll have to see in the future. But let me know what you think of the Charizard domination down below. 5 Charizards in the top 8. Insane stuff. I don't know if I would have said that going into Pittsburgh, but here we are. After Pittsburgh, it's now a reality. Thanks for watching the video here on the second channel, and I will see you on another video. Bye-bye.